intro. Welcome back to the Form is Temporary podcast, and we're pleased to announce that for the Gameweek 3 preview, we're back to look at our teams, how they got on at the weekend, and look ahead to the last game week before the first international break of the season. And to do all of that and look through our points, we have brought on a very good guest, a guest who has recently joined the FPL Juice punditry team. And he's absolutely revolutionized the YouTube game on the FPL community with his meetups and his, basically quizzing people on the street about FPL that is always great to watch. So first of all, I'd like to say a massive welcome onto the pod for FPL Alf. Alf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Roberto. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm excited about this. But yeah, I'm good, man. What day is it? What day are we on now? It's Thursday. The deadline is nigh. I'm excited. Bring on game week 3.
Absolutely. We love that energy, and hopefully, it will get us the points in game week 3. But back again, as always, my co-host Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you, Roberto. Yeah, looking forward to it. It was a good week for many people last week, so I'm looking forward to kind of reviewing that in depth, and then hopefully we can carry it forward into the next game week.
Absolutely, and we'll pick through kind of what went well and what could have been better in game week 2, and then before looking ahead to game week 3, any of our transfer plans. And then we'll also have a look at how the mini league got on, the head-to-head mini league, thanks to those that joined that at the start of the season. Also, we'll look at which players are people bringing in and out of their teams, which players shouldn't people buy and shouldn't people take out ahead of the game week 3 deadline. And we'll also answer a listener question we've got in this week, as well as at the end wrapping up with a quiz to see how Alf and Chris's FPL knowledge or Premier League knowledge come to that. We'll match up against each other, so it should be interesting. So we'll start with looking back at game week 2. It was quite an interesting game week, obviously with a lot of triple captains active for Erling Haaland with his game against Ipswich. Hence, the average for the game week was pretty high. But if you didn't triple captain Haaland, it was not the easiest of game weeks. I mean, a lot of things that we expected to happen did happen. Arsenal keeping a clean sheet. You had the Liverpool players doing well against Brentford. So a few predictable things in there, but also if you didn't go with that template and you went for a few differentials, it was possibly quite a hard week to get points. So we'll start with our guest, Alf. How did you get on in game week 2 and what were the kind of main highlights from your team? And did you make any transfers as well?
Yeah, so I did. I got in Kwanzaa a couple of days early to avoid the price drop. And I had a shocker. I transferred in Anderson, who was just about to go to Fulham. He didn't play for Fulham, obviously. So I had Hall coming off the bench for a 1-pointer. So I kind of I was trying to be a little bit clever about that. Lots of people going for like Robinson. A couple of people got Duncan, but I decided to go with Anderson. Tried and tested centre-back for Crystal Palace at the time. And then I think the next day or 2 days later, he was like on his way to Fulham. So a bit of a disaster, but it's not the end of the world. I think a lot of people got Rico Lewis in as well, who only got 2 points in. So I look at it like that, right? I'm only kind of 1 point behind in a way. And then I beginning of the season, I'm a massive Arsenal fan. And obviously last year, big season for their defense, and I at the very beginning of the season decided to go with 2 Arsenal defense, so Raya and Gabriel, which is just paying off. Like, I can't get enough of the Arsenal defenses. And I got Gvardiol at the back as well. So not the greatest score from a defense standpoint. All in, just by the way, I got 73 points for the week, which isn't bad, isn't great. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And then, midfield, I got 2 blanks in Eze and Bailey, but I'm gonna hold them. There's no point in. We'll get into that in a bit, right, around the transfers. Yeah. And Saka Jota, make up the rest of my midfield. And then up front, I've got Muniz, Isak, who both blanked, 2 pointers for them. And then Haaland, captain, 34. So I think if things went my way a little bit, it would have been a really good game week. Like if Eze had scored or assisted or something, then it could have been very different. But again, not the worst, not the greatest. So we take that, right?
Yeah, it's a very solid score. And as with the triple captaincy, a lot of people got into the kind of 90s and 100s. But even if you just captained Haaland, to score around 70, 80 points this week, I think was a decent return. It was quite a competitive game. We talk about some of those players you picked there. I mean, the Arsenal defense, yet again, coming through with that clean sheet against Aston Villa. So just proving that even in the trickier fixtures, they can still get clean sheets, as we know is always the case. And punishing those that didn't go with it because of those fixtures and how they looked. But with regards to some of your picks, I mean, Muniz, he was really unlucky, I thought, to blank Leicester. He had a lot of chances, had that header that went just past the post. And he was a very popular replacement for the injured Dominic Solanke. And
that's right. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people did start with Solanke. And then when people were trying to replace him, they thought, well, Muniz has the best fixtures. Yes, he's, maybe not an absolutely prolific player. He had spells towards the end of last season, but he just made a lot of sense for people's transfer in. So did you start with Muniz or was he a transfer in for you?
Yeah, I started with him. So it was either him or João Pedro. And I had Pedro in all of my drafts up until like 3 days before the deadline. And then I got in Muniz, which sucks a bit considering he just scored against United. But yeah, I've got quite a lot of players that people are now getting in. So Muniz was one that everyone started bringing. I've got Rodgers on the bench, which people are bringing in for Nkunku this week. So yeah. I know we're getting into transfer plans, but and we'll have a chat about that in a bit. But I feel very good about my team. Lots of people are actually getting in the players I already have. So it's kind of built for the long term. But I mean, again, Isak's blanking as well isn't something we all saw. So it is what it is. That's why FPL is so good, right? It's just so unpredictable. I'm pretty sure my guys will be coming up with a good soon.
Yeah, and with regards to Anderson, you mentioned, obviously going in at Fulham. Do you think he'll be first choice straight away? Or
yeah, good question. Yeah, so I'm going to start him this week. I feel good about that. I can't see him getting rested again. They've had a week's training. They got Ipswich away. It's a good game to bring him in. He is also, I believe, like a very top tier Premier League centre back. Really good goal threat as well from like an FPL standpoint. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'll put it to you guys. What do you think? I reckon he starts, but it obviously is very difficult to kind of gauge that at this point.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Chris? Anderson, obviously, they've got centre back options there, Batty, but you just thought he would have been brought in to start, right?
Yeah, I think for the amount they've paid for him, you'd think he would be kind of a shoe-in as one of their starting centre backs. They obviously lost Tosin over the summer, who was probably their main centre back, and Tim Ream as well. I think they lost.
Yeah, Ream.
I'm not certain, but yeah. So they've had a lot of kind of turnover in that position. But he obviously knows Fulham. He's been there before, so he's familiar with the surroundings as well. So I think that's a good pick. And like you said, he is a goal threat as well, which is always a bonus, isn't it, with your defenders? So 100%. I like it as a pick.
It hurt quite a lot, actually, like classic FPL pain, because a lot of people got Robinson in and then he got a 6-pointer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go different. I'm going to go away from Robinson. It didn't work out at all, that. But anyway, we move.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? But defenders, I think, have been a problem at the start of the season for a lot of managers. And, we look at that defense with Hall as well coming in your auto sub. It was unfortunate he didn't start against Bournemouth. But do you think forward, that, Newcastle defensively, because they have had a few problems, a few kind of different players they've played, and do you think going forward that Hall maybe can get back in the team? Or
it's another one, isn't it? And you know what, I didn't watch that game because I was doing stuff for my channel at the time, and I had my phone down. I was like, I need to focus on, like, I think I was doing a thumbnail or something at the time, and I was like, I'm not going to put it on because I know if I put it on, Hall's going to come on. I was like, I can't do it, let's not do that. So I left it, and then I think I looked at like 85 minutes and he came on at like 73 or something. I was like, and if he didn't come on, I would have had Faze, don't know how to say his name. He would have come on for a 7-pointer. So that really hurt. But Yeah, it is tricky. Hall, we all again predicted to be in the starting lineup for Newcastle, given his pre-season. I wonder if he will start against Tottenham. They're not playing that well, and I'm wondering if Eddie Howe might just go back to a Hall start. So again, I'm kind of in a similar situation with Anderson in that sense. I don't know what my defense is going to look like come game week 3. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think a lot of those players, as you say, come the start of the season, they look great assets, but it's just things develop and change very quickly in FPL. And unfortunately, yeah, that can be the way. But I think when it comes to some of those defenders, and the fixtures will start to swing for them. You know, your players like Voutface, who has been rumored with a move away, but I think he probably will end up staying. So definitely keep the patience with a lot of those picks, because I think you've got good depth there. In terms of your team, Chris, for game week 2, how did you get on? 82 points. Are you happy with that? You didn't make a transfer in the end, did you? And what were the main highlights for you?
So a decent game week all in all. So yeah, I think the highlights really in defence, obviously Gabriel keeping another clean sheet with Arsenal. Gvardiol was a bit of a disappointment. I thought I was almost a nailed clean sheet against Ipswich. And then I did have Robinson as my kind of Fulham defender, because I just like his attacking upside as a fullback, and I just really like him as a player as well. He's really good to watch. So yeah, he was one that I was kind of always targeting for those first 3 game weeks to have in my team. In midfield, I was lucky enough to have Son and Salah. So obviously Son, after his blank in the first game week, there were a few question marks about, he's playing a bit too wide and he's not really getting involved in the game as much. But it was really encouraging to see against Everton that he was kind of getting into more central areas. And I think perhaps with Solanke being out at the moment, I think it might help Son a little bit in the fact that he'll be able to drift a bit more inside and not have to hold his width as much. So yeah, he's one that, although they've got a tough fixture on paper with Newcastle coming up, I think it would be very harsh to get rid of him after that haul. So yeah, I think he's probably one who's going to be kept definitely for this game week. And yeah, we'll have to see about after the international break, because obviously there's a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is surprising the amount of people I saw, thinking about selling him in game week 2 for someone like a Phil Foden, who obviously didn't get any minutes in the end and wasn't in the squad. So it can pay definitely to be patient. I think a lot of people that went without Haaland, for instance, Mark Southerns, captain Son, and that sort of haul could be enough to kind of make up for the lack of Haaland points, especially. So having those big premium midfielders definitely could play dividends.
Yeah, it's a tough one with the premium midfielders, though, because they all really delivered this week. So it's just that dilemma, which ones you have and which ones you can afford to leave out. I think Son, like I said, will probably be kept in for definitely this game week, but it's subject to change, I think, after the international break, because although they've got good fixtures, I would like a piece of the Arsenal attack. A bit of Saka would be really nice, but if I was going to get him, it would have to be at the expense of Son, I think. So, I had Salah as well, so it's good to have a couple of double-digit hauls from him so far this season. That was another plus point in my team. The Morgan Rogers, again, he blanked, but again, I'm not too worried about that, because if Watkins could have finished his dinner on Saturday, I think he would have had at least one assist. And I just like that he's playing 90 minutes, because all the other Aston Villa forwards seem quite open. Well, there's obviously Watkins is going to start every game, but you have him and Bailey, who gets subbed off quite early in matches sometimes. Rogers seems to be playing 90 minutes. Yeah. Well, he has the last 2 game weeks. Not a big sample size, but I'm encouraged by that. So he'll be staying in with Villa's fixtures improving as well.
Yeah, they have a really nice run, don't they, Aston Villa?
Yeah, they do. A
lot of people have been talking about Rogers, as this cheap option. Do you think if you had money in the bank, Alf, would you prefer someone like a Leon Bailey? I know you were quite high on him.
I have Bailey, yeah. I have Bailey and Rogers. So I've gone. I had to think of an alternative to the Aston Villa attack, given I couldn't go with Watkins, and I went with Rogers and Bailey at the start of the season. So I know that a lot of people are umming and ahhing about who to go with if you're getting rid of Nkunku. I prefer Bailey, but if you're also putting up fires in other positions, then Rodgers is a great shout. If you do have an issue in defense or you're trying to get David Raya in, which I get, like he's having an absolute stonker so far, then perhaps like Rodgers might be the way to go. But for me, and we're probably going to come into this because we're going to do team selection, I'm going to start Bailey over Rodgers, and that kind of answers my question, right?
Yeah, it does feel like Bailey has maybe the higher upside because you know that he's got that return history before. He's done it for Villa before, and Rodgers does look great on the eye test. He certainly is, ticking all those boxes, as you said, Chris. Playing a lot of the games. It's just that it's whether or not, if Bailey does, fail to deliver in these next few weeks and then Rodgers does go off, everyone will be bringing him in with that kind of savings. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes in the next few weeks with Villa's nice fixture turn. And you mentioned, Haaland captain. Chris, were you triple captain tempted, or did you think
I was early in the week, I have to be honest, and I really hope that listener who sent in the question last week did, because that would have just been a monumental haul, wouldn't it? But I'm happy with the captains, Ahmed. It's you can't really complain, can you, when you get the 34 points on the captain? It's just a shame that Isak didn't deliver again, but again, I think it's just you need to show a bit of patience with him.
100%.
I think, like you said, Alf, Newcastle haven't really got into their stride yet. So I'm hoping in these next couple of game weeks before he plays Man City, he can start to get a few points in. And then Armstrong, again, another blank, but I like Southampton's fixtures. He's a penalty taker, and at his price point, I mean, there's obviously João Pedro, who's kind of emerged as possibly the best in that category at the 5.5. But I think I'll probably be keeping Armstrong for now, and then maybe look to ship him out after the international break.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that is a strong setup you've got. I don't think it really needed a transfer. So it's nice to see you got, a good system there. And I think players like Kamada, who are, nice differential picks, you've got Sinistera there when Bournemouth's fixtures, potentially do improve. I think you've got some nice options there going into game week 3. I scored 81 points in game week 2, so one less than you, Chris, unfortunately. But it was an okay week for me. I unfortunately had my hand forced because when we had the episode last week and I was thinking about making a transfer because I had Rashford and I wasn't too pleased about it. I went for Rashford because I thought, at that price, maybe he could do something. And he did have an okay performance, I thought, against Fulham. Potentially should have had an assist for Garnacho. But in that game week 2, I felt that, maybe an Eze would be tempting in that game week 2 against West Ham. A few different options around that price point. And so I looked at that thinking, I might do that. Then we get the news of Solanke's injury, and I just had to push that down the priority list. So I had to keep Rashford, and Muniz came in for Solanke, who, it was frustrating to see him blank. But to be honest, I'm happy with Muniz going forward anyway. So it's just a shame that Solanke missed out on that second good fixture, really, because that's what I think a lot of people owned him for. So in the end, I ended up just making the one transfer. But, fairly happy with a lot of the squad. The one I was sweating on was Ola Aina. So I picked him in game week 1 thinking, okay, he's lowly owned, good fixtures for the start of the season for Forest. And he goes and gets himself injured after 54 minutes against Bournemouth. And I'm thinking,
that sucks.
it's just FPL, isn't it? It's just classic. And then I'm sweating, to be fair, because I see a lot of predicted lineups for the game against Southampton some saying he'll start, some saying he won't. And obviously with the signing of Alex Moreno as well, that didn't help for Aina's prospects of minutes going forward. But I was thinking, well, let's just leave that there. And until it's a massive problem, it might not become a problem, because if Moreno plays on the left and, Aina switches out to the right, and Nico Williams could potentially take Aina's spot. But I just wondered whether that would still work. So I left Aina in, and I'm glad I did, to get his 9-pointer. So that was a highlight of the week, really. Just hopefully.
That's a really nice differential. What's his ownership?
It's probably about 1%, I think, 2%.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Wow, yeah, that's good.
That was really nice. Yeah, 1.7% at the moment. So
that is what we play the game for.
Yeah,
sorts of differential.
That sort of differential was really, really nice. The thing that was quite painful for me again this week was Salah with another goal, because I started the season with Jota. Yeah, he got the assist, but it's always when you look at the Liverpool score and you're just hoping Jota just keeps returning and Salah keeps quiet, but inevitably Salah, can't be stopped. So it's been hard to go without Salah, but I'm just hoping that these next couple of weeks, it won't be too painful. And I'm probably hoping to switch to Salah in a future game week. But at the moment, I'm just kind of sticking to the plan and not ripping it up, not hitting that wild card, because I've seen a lot of people activate it ahead of game week 3. I think it could potentially be risky just before an international break. We can have another week's information. I mean, I get everyone's team is different, but I feel like game week 4, the way the fixtures are, it just seems like a lot of the good fixture runs kind of come into game week 4 rather than game week 3. But we'll have to see how that gets on. Munoz for the second week in a row was a bit disappointing, just because Palace with Gay potentially leaving. They've got problems with Anderson going. I'm not too as much confident with Munoz as I was at the start of the season. But as he showed in game week 1, he's got that assist potential regardless of how many they concede. So I'm not loving it, but I'm also hoping that Munoz kind of comes good eventually with the fixtures coming up. And then I was very pleased to own Smith Rowe. Glad he finally got his goal. Do you think Smith Rowe going forward, Alf, is the best option at Fulham? Because, a lot of people talked about Andreas, on set pieces and looking quite influential. But, Smith Rowe, good to see him get off the mark, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And he's one of those that I actually had a look at to try and get into my team. He does look really good, and it's disappointing for non-owners. I have obviously, like, Bailey's been a little bit disappointing as well. So seeing Smith Rowe at the price he is, it's definitely one that I'm looking at the moment. And so Andreas is going to be a little bit more behind, I understand. Smith Rowe is going to be in that 10 position. If Smith Rowe was on pens and he was on free kicks and confirmed and all that sort of stuff, then he really would be like a top tier asset to own. But Andreas is sort of keeping him honest a little bit. But I would definitely go Smith Rowe over Andreas. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he feels like the player that just goes a bit further forward and has that added goal threat in comparison to Andreas. And I went for the same front three of Isak, Haaland, and Muniz. I was very tempted to triple captain, but in the end, I thought, it's so early in the season. We might get, double game week further down the line for a midfielder who potentially gets more points. If a Salah has a great double game week that comes up, I think Salah can reach 17 across 2. So that's my thinking behind that. But, it'd be easy to say, it's going to be a bit bigger and better score. But for those that have done their triple captain, I think it'll be nice to know that 17 is banked, and that's a very, very good return for a triple captain. So
I've got a controversial take. I actually don't think they won. I don't think the triple captain has won. I reckon there are, as you say, like double game weeks. I think we'll be looking at that and we'll be saying the Haaland triple captain is game week 2 actually lost. Like, I think we'll be saying that. Like, sure, enjoy it, like 100% enjoy that score for now, but I would be a little bit disappointed with that if I was triple captaining. I'd be aiming for more.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because everyone, well, not everyone, but most FPL managers have probably captained Haaland this week. So the actual difference between triple captaining and captaining him is not it's not a huge margin, really. It can be made up during the course of the season. So I agree with you, Roberto. I think it was better to use your captaincy this week on him, obviously, and then save that triple captain for later on down the line. Hopefully there's some good double game weeks.
Like Saka, I'd do a Saka or a Haaland on a double game week, I think, for me. I do just think that we got away with that a little bit. The non-triple captainers.
Yeah, it could have potentially been a lot worse. You look at De Bruyne scoring that goal and Haaland could have easily taken it off him for a 4. Maybe that will be one that we come at the end of the season. We think, we did get away with it, but we'll have to hope for a better opportunity down the line. All in all, 81 points, pretty happy with that. It's typical FPL, isn't it? When you put your last defender on the bench away to Man City and they get an assist in the opening 7 minutes of the game. But Ben Johnson, I'm glad he, is starting to look a bit better now, because after getting dropped against Liverpool, I was fearing that he'd be, completely out the side and a bit of a problem for me. But hopefully going forward now, he can get a few more minutes. But that's my game week 2. So in terms of looking ahead now to game week 3, we'll have a little look at some of the transfer trends that are kind of popping up in a lot of people's teams. Now, a lot of these could be, based on wildcards and the like. But I think with FPL, we always know that at the start of the season, price changes are very volatile. It happens every season. But you see a lot of people moving for certain players come game week 3. Now, firstly, Chris, do you think people that bringing in Morgan Rogers, we discussed him earlier, do you think he's a no-brainer for this week, or would you kind of consider other assets to replace Christopher Nkunku?
Well, as Alf kind of alluded to, I think an Aston Villa forward definitely is a good move, or sorry, a midfielder like a Rogers or a Bailey. I think both of those, with the fixtures that they have in the next few weeks, I think they could really be kind of lucrative assets to own. And we spoke about Fulham play as well, Andreas Smith Rowe. So there are options definitely in that kind of bracket. I like Rogers just because I think Aston Villa's attack it's just really usually quite consistent. So I think he's a good option. But as Al said, I don't think you can go wrong with Bailey either. He's probably the more explosive of the two. So I think either of those really.
Yeah, I also like Semenyo. I think he's a good shout against Everton. I do like that a lot actually. He's a little bit less than Bailey as well. But yeah, like Bailey, Rogers, Semenyo, like Mitoma's having a cracking start to the season as well.
Yeah,
like he's an option. I think you could be looking away from Aston Villa. I think the popular pick is going for someone at Aston Villa, and if you wanted to be like super differential, then even like Mitoma might be your guy. But to be fair, he's got Arsenal away, so that's not the greatest fixture. So my pick would be Semenyo, I think, instead of an Aston Villa midfielder. But
yeah, I like Semenyo. He's a nice little differential, and obviously with Evan Nilsson coming in, he might not be getting as many minutes in the kind of forward position as we would have wanted. But certainly Semenyo, when kind of in-game substitutions are happening, you see Semenyo pick up quite attacking positions. And yeah, it's the only problem, I guess, is that run of fixtures for Bournemouth. But they could well do something in those games anyway. And I think, Semenyo's looked, of all the kind of 5.5 options, one of the better ones. Interesting that looking at the most transferred in players, Chris, Madueke is at the top this game week. Would you agree with that? Do you think that, obviously the hat trick is, a big part of it, but do you think going forward that you'd pick any other Chelsea player other than Cole Palmer? Because it feels a bit risky, doesn't it, in terms of potential minutes with all the players Chelsea have bought in?
Yeah, it's a risky one, I think. I think obviously a fantastic performance and long may it continue as a Chelsea fan, but I think it's risky because obviously they've signed Neto in that position and they've got João Felix. It's just so many options in those wide positions. And I think with the Conference League starting, obviously they've got a game tonight. So that could impact kind of selections for Sunday's game against Palace. And then going forward, they're going to be playing Thursday, Sunday. And it is quite risky for rotation when teams play in those European competitions. So I don't know. He's obviously he showed that what he's capable of, and I wouldn't say it's a bad pick, but I think if you can get a Chelsea player, obviously it's a bit of a price difference, but Palmer probably is the one to go for because I think he's going to start every game in the Premier League. Madueke is a bit more 50-50 with Neto, who's coming kind of, he's not fully match fit now because he didn't really have much of a pre-season at Wolves. But I think maybe after the international break, he might be in a better position to take that spot. So we'll have to see. It's not a bad pick, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation around Chelsea midfielders because, Alf, as an Arsenal fan, I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, with the fixtures, Saka might move him on to Palmer. But do you think that you would just keep the faith with that? And it's very exciting that Palmer's now, on the table so much. He wasn't at the start of the season. But would you actually, because I've seen the reason people are wildcarding is they want to basically cram in all these, premium assets, Palmer and Saka, Salah. It's not great for your squad depth overall, but for like these kind of 50-50 switches between them, would you kind of go away from that transfer, or would you advise it to get Palmer in this week?
No, I mean, for me, like, I think Palmer is a good pick. I think Salah is a good pick. I think Saka 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 is a good pi I have a whole philosophy here about not doing knee-jerk actions and playing the long game, right? Like, you can't be selling Saka. Like, what kind of a move is that? You know, like if you get rid of Saka, you know he's going to score 2 goals in the next game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were listening in on the FPL Juice Streamception on Saturday morning, but Tom, I keep saying this to everyone because it's incredible. He sold Saka for Foden.
Yeah.
And then Saka got an assist and Foden didn't start and wasn't in the squad. Like, that is, you're so set up for a situation like that. If you were to make that sort of move, for me, it just spells long-term pain for you, or short-term pain, should I say. So I would say, like, if you have problems to put out, fires to put out, do that. Do transfers in that sense. Don't be bringing Madueke in for Saka. You know, don't be doing stuff like that. That just, for me, is going to cause you some pain down the road. So just take a breath. Don't do knee-jerk transfers. That would be my take. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen a lot of people say, you know, with the way the fixtures are swinging in the next few weeks, you know, Saka faces Spurs and Man City in game weeks 4 and 5, where in that time Salah faces Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. So I think a lot of people are eyeing up that potential switch. But, you know, we have to kind of keep in mind that by game week 6, I think a lot of people will have Saka and will want Saka for that nice run of fixtures. So it's it's just kind of when you're flip-flapping between these premium assets, it does a lot for your kind of team where you're moving around money and you're making transfers, but just because you want to own the right premiums at the right time. But
you're never going to do that. It's the Premier League. You're never going to be able to get the right premiums at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like with goalkeepers. I think, you know, goalkeepers, you set and forget to a lesser extent, maybe, but not far off with premiums. You should usually try and set and forget them because they're all good. Like, they're all good in their own right. So they're going to have spells where they're in form and they're not, but eventually they'll come good anyway. So, you know, if you try to hop to the right one all the time, it would just be too much.
I had that last season. I was like, I think I went through about 5 different goalkeepers last season. And so this year I'm like, David Raya, put him in, leave him, he's good to go. I'm not touching that position going forward. And that's really worked out. So yeah, I totally get that. You just want to make sure that you're like not causing yourself headaches like in the next few weeks. I think looking at players like Madueke, you know, even like Smith Rowe, because he is coming good. I just think unless you have an issue in your team, like, don't make that move, because the player you're moving out will inevitably slap. They'll score a couple of goals and assists. That's the way FPL works. So you're going to feel better if you leave your premium that you currently have in your team. That's the way I play the game.
Absolutely. I think making adjustments to the kind of lower priced players just makes a lot more sense, because then you know you're fixing your biggest fires in a way. So with regards to game week 3 then, Chris, have you got any plans of transfers, and are there any players you're looking to move out? Are there any problems you would say in your current team?
There's two kind of, one glaring issue really, which is the kind of 4th midfielder spot for me, because unfortunately Kamada and Sinistera both didn't start at the weekend. Both came off the bench, but yeah, it was a bit disappointing because I thought Sinistera was a bit more uncertain because obviously they'd signed Van Lissen, and there's quite a lot of competition in those forward areas. We talked about Semenyo, Cliver, Tavernier. They've got a lot of players in those areas. I was more surprised about Kamada because I think Edouard replaced him. So I don't know if I didn't watch the game. I'm not sure if they maybe played 2 up front with him and Mateta, but that's a bit more concerning for me. And he is a little bit more expensive than Sinistera at 5.5. And as we spoke about, there are options in that bracket to kind of replace him this week. But I always had the plan at the start of the season to kind of keep my 3 free transfers going into game week 4, because I wanted the kind of utmost flexibility after the international break with the fixture swings. So I'm thinking, as kind of a temporary kind of placeholder, I might bring in Ben Johnson from my bench. I know that's might be a bit of a controversial one, but I don't mind the fixture. I know Fulham, not a bad side by any means, but with Johnson, I think that he's got the attacking upside. I think they played a back three against City, and he was one of the wing backs. So I do like the upside he provides. And I think, is Wes Burns still out injured? That would play a big part in my decision, because I think if he's out, then I'd be pretty confident Ben Johnson will start. So I think as kind of a temporary placeholder, I think I might bring in Johnson for one of those two midfielders, and then leave myself with the 3 free transfers going into game week 4 with the fixture swings. So but that could change, to be honest. I'm probably going to go down that route, but you never know up until the deadline. Your mind plays a lot of tricks on you.
Yeah. So do you think rolling that transfer is something you just always looked at doing game week 3, and you don't see any reason to change?
Yeah. That was the kind of only element of doubt that's crept in. But from the start of the season, I always wanted to give myself those 3 free transfers coming out of the international break. I just like the fixture swings, and some of the assets who returned back late from international duties, like your Sakas, your Palmers, Watkins, people like that, who, I mean, they've disproved my theory completely. I thought they'd be less match sharp, and obviously delivered some great hauls between them already. But I just think with a couple more weeks under their belt, obviously they'll go on an international duty probably, but just kind of getting that match sharpness back, I think they could be even more, even more better. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean, even better assets after the international break. So yeah, I'm gonna stay patient and hold my 3 transfers for then, I think.
I like that. Nice, calm and patient approach. What about you, Alf? Are you looking to make any transfers in game week 3, and any kind of potential fires you want to put out in your 15?
Yeah. So I'm on Chris's boat. Like I really feel like the best thing to do is, if you haven't got any major fires, then to just hold. And I'm planning to try and save up a couple of transfers. I don't want to use my wild card anytime soon, so I want to save up some transfers and then perhaps do a mini wild card in a couple of game weeks. Have that flexibility. Now the fire, my 0.5 fire, if you will, is my defense. So obviously I've got Anderson issues, I've got Hall issues, and then Fies or Phase. All those 3 are actually at risk. So there is a little part of me that is thinking perhaps I do that just to be safe. But I don't feel too bad. I think Anderson's going to be starting, so I will just probably roll. Fulham also has some really good fixtures coming up, so I think Anderson's my guy. And yeah, like, sure, my team isn't doing amazing things right now, but it's set up for the future. It's set up for the long term. So I feel like I just want to play it cool, don't make any rash decisions, and just kind of see where we are in a couple of game weeks. That's my plan. So at this point, I'm 95% rolling the transfer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think both of your teams are well set up enough that you've got that kind of ability to roll transfers. And yeah, it's nice to be that cool-headed, because my team, I'm itchy. Oh, there's always an itch to scratch.
You're doing a -8. You're
doing
a -8, Roberto.
Not quite going that far, but I think there's a couple things that I could address. I think the main one being Rashford. I think he was just an oversight at the start of the season that I just thought had potential with, fixtures for the Man United, Fulham, Brighton, Southampton. I looked at those and thought, yeah, I could have a bit of that. But Man United and Rashford in particular just haven't quite lived up to how I thought they would.
Yeah, terrible, right?
Rashford just looks completely off it. I knew that he was last season, but I just expected him to come back, have a point to prove.
A redemption arc. Yeah.
I was there for that redemption arc, but it just doesn't seem to be working. And I think for 6.9, unfortunately, I stomached the price drop. So there's just better assets at that price point. So I'm thinking of making the transfer of game week 3, Rashford down to Rodgers, just to kind of save me a lot of money. I mean, I've already got 2 million in the bank. I can use that money from Rodgers to potentially get maybe Salah in for Saka in a couple of weeks, or potentially get Watkins in for an Isak with Villa's fixture run coming up. I'm tempted by Watkins this week, but I'm just willing to give Isak one more chance because I think he's good enough to do well against Spurs, and I'll be a bit annoyed if I pull the trigger early. So giving myself a week to watch Watkins, how he gets on against an easier opposition, and then see is Isak, maybe just worth holding. It might be a week more of information that can help me make that transfer, and then I can get that Villa coverage and attack by going for Rodgers. So that would leave me with quite a lot of money going into the next game week and a bit of flexibility with transfers going forward. So at the moment, I've got Valdemarsson in goal from Brentford. Now, I'm pretty 100% sure he won't start because Flecken is, likely to. But just in case he does, because of the fact he's got Southampton at home, I can always have Pope getting auto subbed in. So I've just got Valdemarsson starting for that reason, but it's pointless probably. And then my back three, I'm quite happy with for this week. I think Aina should start. Moreno could come in at any point, I suppose, but until he starts coming in and we get kind of confirmation that Aina is the one dropping out, with him coming in, it could well be Nico Williams that drops out. So I'm willing to kind of wait and see, and that's why I bought Aina for these kind of nice first three fixtures. So I'm hoping that Ola Aina doesn't, become a problem sooner than I need him to. And then Konza I've always had before this fixture, really. I mean, away to Leicester's not a great game, and maybe Villa could concede, but on paper, I'm hoping that Konza can come through with a clean sheet. Do you think that that back three, Chris, is looking good for this week? Because you could potentially, change out Aina, but it's another transfer which doesn't seem worth a -4 at this stage, does it?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. It'll be interesting to see whether Moreno does kind of take his position in the next few weeks. But like you said, I think you need to kind of get that evidence actually on the pitch to see whether it's going to be Nico Williams or Aina who kind of drop out. So yeah, I think for now, especially after how well he did last week for you, I think it's sensible to hold him. And I think Konza and Trent as well. I mean, looking at those fixtures, it looks like the good long-term picks as well to have them both.
Sure.
I'm very jealous as a non-Trent owner. I think he's adding those clean sheets under Slot. I think they're going to be a lot better defensively now than they were under Klopp, and he's always got that attacking upside. I think he's one that I'm looking at after game week 4 to maybe bring in, but I think you've done very well to have him from the start. I know he's not got the attacking return just yet, but I think Big Man Bakar mentioned last week, I think it's brewing. It's brewing. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, he always gets in kind of threatening positions, and he does have a tendency to be able to pick up bonus points like we saw against Ipswich. So I think, he could be really one that could go off, and that big haul could definitely be coming. Midfield, I'm happy with. Rodgers will be in there with Saka, Jota, and Smith Rowe. And then up front, Isak, Haaland, and Muniz. Yet again, just rolling with those three and see how they get on. Captaincy. Now, this is interesting ahead of game week 3, because I've seen a few people talk about if you've got Palmer now, at home to Palace could be a really nice captaincy option. Saka as well has got a nice home game against Brighton, but it is the early kickoff. So, there's a few kind of people that don't like to do that. And of course,
is that really a thing? Can we just have a little chat about that? Is it really a thing?
The thing is, I think the way that people think about it is if it goes wrong, it ruins the whole weekend. And it's like, it's hard to take, but it has been quite hard to guarantee that players won't be like 100% fit. Like in that early game, they often start slow and it can be a bit cagey in the first kind of half of the match. It's not always the case. Certain players disprove that theory, with Salah in particular, but I don't know. I'm never one that loves captaining it in the early game. And then, of course, we've got Haaland, who, only scored a hat-trick last week, let's not forget. And he is away from home, but West Ham...
It's West Ham, yeah.
Not great defensively. So what would your preference be, Alf, for those that are looking to captain?
So I think I've got all of those that you just mentioned. So Saka, Isak, Haaland, same as yourself, right? Right now it's on Haaland, but I do like Isak. I do like Isak at home, and not many people go with Isak as well. So I think that could actually be the move. Like if I'm being smart, if I just want to have a bit of a stress-free weekend, Haaland. If I want to try and get a little bit sneaky about it, have a little bit of risk, I think Isak might be the guy. But then also Saka is on the table as well. So yeah, right now Haaland, but it could be either of those three if I'm being honest. Just got to think about it a bit more.
I don't hate the Isak pick because we know defensively Tottenham can, be and especially at St James's Park,
St James's Park, yeah.
Goals down the
I
year.
think this could be the one where Newcastle will actually start their season in a way, because there's something different about that stadium. Like they always just play well, and Tottenham, it's Tottenham, right? Like, no offense to Tottenham.
They can capitulate, can't
yeah,
they?
yeah.
Was
I just
it
feel
last
like
season the 5-1 game?
Yeah.
So obviously there's a bit of history there as well. So yeah, I like that as a captaincy shout. I think. Yeah, so Saka. It was Big Man Bakar last week talking about Saka as maybe the standout of the captaincy picks in terms of fixtures, but Brighton, I think, have maybe overperformed people's expectations.
Yeah, they do.
So I'm not sure. It's tricky this week because West Ham away. It's not the best fixture for Haaland, but it's Haaland. So
it's Haaland. It's Man City. Yeah. None of us have any Brighton assets, right? Am I right in saying that?
No.
That's, for me, that's a little bit. I do feel like I should have done Kwanzaa to dunk. That's my regret of the past week. But yeah, like I think Brighton need to be considered as well, like from a transfer perspective. But sorry, I'm going off piece there.
No, it's from my perspective, like Brighton assets, like I was scarred from them last year with De Zerbi's rotation. There were just so many games where it was like a complete shock that a player you thought was a nailed starter. I think it was João Pedro, wasn't it, in game week 2 last year, Roberto?
Yeah.
And we all had him for that Luton fixture, and then for the Wolves game away, he got dropped. And I know it's a completely different manager, but it's like ingrained in my mind. Just stay away from Brighton assets. But I think you're right, Alf. I think they look really good, and it looks like there is less rotation now under this new manager. So hopefully.
And come game week 4 and 5, I think we're all going to be looking at them, especially Minter and Mitoma. I think certainly that those two fixtures of Ipswich against Forest, and those two just look potentially really good for points potential. And I just hope that, as you say, Chris, that the rotation isn't a big factor there, because they have got options to use. It's just whether or not, your likes of João Pedro, who has looked good the first couple of weeks, will he share minutes with Ferguson? We'll have to see. But yeah, definitely some interesting, potential points on the horizon with captaincy as well. So we have to say congratulations to the absolutely incredible score that came for the mini league. 101 points from AKFC. Has beaten No FPL in the standings for game week 2. But at the moment, the current leader is, in fact, Daniel with his overall score of 171. He had a really good game week as well. So it's getting interesting at the top of the mini league. A lot of potential points there. 86-72 win for Daniel. Chris, you just got the dub against Ahmad. 82-71. So that's a nice one. And I also did unfortunately lose against Deepak Batter. 96 points from Deepak. Very impressive week. So at the top, it's Daniel, and at the bottom, it's not looking good for a few people at the summit. You've got Robert, Augustino, and Uncle Napoli as well. So early days, of course, for the mini league, but we'll have to see how that gets on in the coming weeks. Also, I have to say a massive shout out to Alex Volo FPL, who this week helped out creating our new logo for the season. So it was good to get a refresh on our logo, and really appreciate him spending his time to do that. And
he just did my logo as well, by the way.
Yeah, incredible.
Legend.
It's still Alex Volo corporation here we got going on. Episode in thoughts of him, and yes, absolutely great stuff. Okay, so listener question we got sent in this week. I'll throw this on over to you first, Alf. See what you say, and then we'll see what Chris thinks. Now, this game week, he said, what's the one bandwagon you think will be coming up in the next few weeks? The one player who everyone will jump on, and potentially the best bandwagon pick that people can jump on. So we'll start with you.
Knee-jerk. We're talking like a sort of knee-jerk asset, like after game week 3.
Potentially. A lot of people might flock towards in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think something like I mentioned Semenyo earlier. I don't know if he's going to actually come up. Like, I don't think he's going to be an amazing asset, but I think he's going to do a job. I think Eze. I think Eze is. I think, and maybe that's a little bit. I don't know, because people do own him a great deal. People have got rid of him this week. I know that he is being sold. I think he's about to go down in value by 0.1. I reckon some people are going to feel some pain from that move, and they'll either try and get him back in or something like that. But yeah, I reckon Eze is going to be the guy. His XG is looking really good. His stats are looking really good. His numbers are looking awesome. I think that he is the guy that people will be looking at in a couple of game weeks for sure.
Yeah, I like Eze. I think he's been very unlucky to not return. And yeah, he could potentially go on a great run from now on. I think it's a kind of big differential shout, but I think Sammy Smodics, if he scores against Fulham after scoring last week, I think with the nice run of fixtures that Ipswich have got in the next 3, and the next 4 potentially as well, I think he could be one that a lot of people flock towards. Potentially some fans that have seen him in the Championship as well. I think he is a very nice price. And yeah, if he can really show that performance against Fulham, then I think a lot of people could jump ship for him. Do you agree with that, Chris, or have you got something in mind?
No, I really like that. Talking of Ipswich, they're like building a Championship all-star team, aren't they, from last season? Jack Clark, Schmodics, they just seem to be signing them all up. But yeah, I actually really like that, to be honest. I was going to go with a bit more of a conventional pick, but I think Anthony Gordon might become a kind of a bandwagon pick in the next few weeks. I think, like we spoke about that fixture against Spurs, I think I could see him scoring in that, and then Newcastle have some good fixtures leading up to Man City, obviously. But after that, then they have some nice fixtures. So, yeah, I think at that price point, he might be one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that question was sent in by my K-Man fan. So, yeah, appreciate that, Matt. Great question. Okay, well, thanks for that. That's game week 2 and 3 covered off. So now we're going to get into the quiz. So for the quiz this week, I've got a few questions. Some of them are career paths where we list the clubs that a player has gone to. You've got to try and predict the player. The other one is a themed kind of appropriately for this week, with the transfer window shutting tomorrow in England. I've got a question about which players have been each club's record signing. So we'll start off with the record signing question. And what we're going to do...
I've got ChatGPT ready.
I
joke. I won't cheat. Let's do this.
It's all good. So yeah, for this section, for the every Premier League club's record signing, we're going to do like a kind of throw back and forth sort of system where one person will answer, then if the next person can't get it, it's awarded to the other player.
Okay.
So what we'll do for this, I want you to try and name Premier League players who are the club's record signings. These are current Premier League clubs of the 20 in this season. Name as many as you can until you basically run out. So
wait, guys, are there? Let's make this interesting, right?
Yeah.
In front of me, I have Carolina Reapers, right? A little pot here.
Okay.
My question to Chris is: do you have anything equivalent over there? If you lose, the loser has to do. I'll do a Carolina Reaper if I lose this, but you have to do the equivalent if you lose.
Oh God, what is an equivalent of that?
Have you got any hot sauce on it? You know what I mean? Like this is quite serious, isn't it? I doubt you've got Carolina Reapers on you, right?
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
I will. I've got a very old-fashioned radio, though. If you fancy that, might be useful in a nuclear bomb kit. If you ever need it.
Maybe we park that for another time. Maybe we park. I'm not doing a Carolina Reaper if you don't have to do one. I'll send some to you, Chris, for the next one. Yeah.
Alf's already bringing the energy, and he's bringing the kind of forfeit energy from Juice on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's quality. Now, as Nick would say, I think whoever wins the quiz gets the highest of 5s, and they also get the bragging rights, which what more?
Love that.
So, okay, we'll start off with our guest because we like to be accommodating. So we'll just keep on until you guys can't think of one. Any of the Premier League clubs, their record signing. Off you go, Alf.
Okay, so I'm going to go with, I think this is still a thing. Paul Pogba, Man United. Is that really dumb?
That is correct.
Oh,
On to you, Chris.
Oh, I feel like I could rub salt into the wounds of Alf here as an Arsenal fan. Is Arsenal's record signing still Nicolas Pepe?
I'm afraid that is incorrect.
It's not. Oh, who is it?
Answer
Oh no! Oh
is
my
it?
god!
Who is
that's
it?
so
Declan
obvious.
Rice.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's so obvious. Oh my
Oh
god.
man, I wish you had some Carolina Reapers in front of you, Chris.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, it's 1-0 to Alf. Some answers you could have had. Lots of other clubs. Aston Villa, Amadou Onana. Bournemouth, Evan Nilsson, which was obviously recent. Brentford, Thiago, who they signed this season. We had Ruta for Brighton. Caicedo for Chelsea.
Caicedo. Chelsea paid, is it 107 million for Caicedo? Is that right?
Something in that region.
It was very high.
Insane.
Scandalous.
Yeah, very, very stupidly high. We also had Benteke at Palace, Sigurdsson at Everton.
Benteke?
Benteke.
Yeah.
That is wow.
Yeah, that is wild.
Emil Smith-Rowe at Fulham. Mari Hutchinson at Ipswich. Yuri Tielemans at Leicester. One that I didn't expect you to miss out was Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool. Grealish, of course, at Man City. Isak for Newcastle. Elliot Anderson for Forest. I hadn't quite realised he was their record signing. Sulemana for Southampton. Solanke for Tottenham. Haller for West Ham. And Mateus Cunha for Wolves were those answers. So, yeah, a few
That's not easy. That's not easy, is it? Like knowing those.
It's one of those things you start off and you think, oh, this shouldn't be too hard. But
yeah, 100%.
As you do it, I guess the mind goes blank. Okay, well, it's 1-0 to Alf, but still 4 questions left. Now, we've got some career paths coming up next. So I'm going to name the clubs this player has gone to, and this is about buzzing in as quickly as you can. So, Alf, have you got a buzzer noise for us this week?
God, I've got so many gadgets I must do somewhere. I'll just do a noise. I'll just do it. I'll get my phone out. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Chris, what's your buzzer noise this week?
Need you ask?
Oh, it's got to be
on the radio.
It's going to be King Cole again.
Yeah.
Quite fittingly after his performance at the weekend.
It makes sense. You've got a good success rate with that buzzer, so why go away from it? Right?
That's why I got the last question wrong, because it didn't involve a buzzer.
Okay, Alf, what's yours?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, right. the classic buzzer. Very BGT that. Okay, let's get into it. The first career path. The clubs are FC Liefering, Red Bull Salzburg, RB Leipzig, Liverpool. Oh, Alf has gone in. What are you saying, Al?
Sugar, you went Liverpool there, and that's completely. That's Let's Talk FPL that just came up there on my algorithm.
No worries.
Okay, sorry.
What are you saying?
You know what? I shouldn't take that because I was going to say Nkunku, and then you said Liverpool. So I don't know who that is.
You buzzed in. So have a guess. What are you saying?
Oh, flip. So Leipzig to Liverpool. I don't know. Blank.
Chris, have you got anything?
I've got 2, but I don't know which one it is. Surely it's either Kanate or Sabotzalai.
What are you going to guess, Chris?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm going to go Sabotzalai.
That is correct. It is Dominic Szoboszlai. Yeah, Leipzig to Liverpool after previously being at Salzburg. Yeah, that was a tough one, but you did well there, Chris. So 1-1. Okay, next career path is on the horizon. The clubs are hang on, bear with. Anderlecht, Newcastle United, Fulham, and then Al Hilal. So that's Anderlecht.
Oh, King Cole.
Yep.
Mitrovic.
That is correct. It is Alexander Mitrovic.
Nice.
Did you have any ideas about that one, Alf?
No, I didn't. I don't think I'm very good at this game.
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
There's still time. It's 2-1 to Chris. 2 more questions to go. The clubs are Wolfsburg, Manchester City, Roma, Inter Milan.
Oh yeah, I think I've got that. It's Dzeko.
It is correct. That is Edin
Yes.
Dzeko. That's 2-2. So that means it's a
We got a
decider.
tiebreak. Oh yes, let's
We've
go.
got the final
You could
question.
easily get thrown by that one, though, couldn't you? Wolfsburg
Yeah.
to City with De Bruyne. Was that what you were going for?
I was trying to throw the bait there and see if you go for it. Okay, the final one. Buzzers at the ready. Here we go. CSKA Sofia, Bayer Leverkusen, Tottenham, Man United, Fulham, Monaco. I'll repeat them again. CSK Sofia, Bayer Leverkusen, Tottenham, Man United,
What?
Fulham.
Who is that? Oh, is it? Oh, I think I'm going to go for it. Buzzer. I'll do the buzzer. Sorry. Here we go. I'm going to have a guess. I'm going to go for a guess. I'm going to go for Andreas Pereira.
Andreas Pereira is incorrect.
There's my algorithm doing more FPL content.
Chris, have you got any idea?
Yeah, Andreas was kind of one of my thoughts as well with the United to Fulham. Is this a current player? Roberto?
It's not. No.
It's not.
You can't have clues, Chris.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
I'll give you 10 more seconds and then I'll have to throw in a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I pass. I genuinely don't know. I don't know.
Don't know.
Who is it?
The answer is Dimitar Berbatov.
Oh,
God. I say that. I would never.
Man United, Fulham.
That
Okay.
makes total sense.
The final tiebreaker question then. To take it home for 3-2, I want you to tell me which player is this? They started off at Lille. They then went to Chelsea.
King Cole.
What is it, Chris?
Eden Hazard.
It is Eden Hazard.
Oh, nice one.
Eden Hazard takes it home. And Chris, narrow victory there, but very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that as a Chelsea fan, that was a bit of a gimme, but yeah, thank you.
That was a crazy twist of the tail in that round there. I mean, I was winning, then you were winning, and then we went to tie break. Yeah. Amazing.
All for the drama. Absolutely. No, well done, Chris. And thanks again, Alf, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. It's always good to support fellow content creators. I know this game can be tough at times, so I'm all in. Let me know. I'm always around to help you guys out.
Oh, no, much appreciated. Thank you very much. And well done for all you're doing. Keep videoing and keep filming on the streets and asking people about FPL, because it's that sort of kind of gutsy content that you don't see a lot these days. So well done.
It is hard, you know. Like I'm going tonight to Exmouth Market, and like it is, I'm so nervous like doing it. And then as soon as I get into it, it's like, okay, this is fine. But beforehand, I'm like sweating. I got like shakes. Like it is absolutely mental. But yeah, it's always good fun. So no, I appreciate that. Yeah, but, it's always been such good positive feedback from everyone. I know it's very different to like the content that's out there. So yeah, I'm having the time of my life.
No, absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. It's very refreshing to see. And yeah, thanks again for coming on. And thanks for those that have listened and all watched on the YouTube FPL Yellow Army. But yeah, we'll be back again. Maybe we'll take a week off. We'll have to see next week what with the international break. But we'll be back with more content, probably ahead of Game Week 4. So if you did like it, make sure you to share. And thanks for following the Former Temporary podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.
Cheers, guys.